acceptance, I think, is really hard for a lot of people. And if we really look at it, most of us do not accept ourselves.
No, and there's a whole lot you can say about that, societally, and just, where that comes from, just...
Yeah, and not nurtured. A lot of that comes from, I will say, our child rearing, not being properly instructed on how to love ourselves, and then growing up somewhere where it's not a safe space.
Right.
And not the extreme of being abused or manipulated, mistreated, or anything like that, but it's not a safe place to say I'm scared. It's not a safe space to share your feelings or to ask questions because, you're being told to go in the living room, or the adults are over here, you have to be over here, or the parents are working, and they're not physically available because their schedule is demanding, or maybe they're neglectful and all these things, so you've never had an outlet to grow yourself and to learn to be vulnerable, or siblings are being nasty to you and cousins and all this stuff, and so you learn to just clam up and keep everything to yourself. And I think that just happens to us over and over and over again.
Right.
And it's just not a part of the American culture, I will say. That children have a safe space to develop vulnerabilities. And then we can get into all of the nonsense and all the vile things that happen in society where the children are being broken and whatnot.
Right.
How have you seen vulnerability and empathy make you stronger?
Well, that was actually what I was thinking of when you were thinking of the kids. Because when you're being taught as a kid that nothing you're doing is okay, and you're judged, and you don't have that space to be vulnerable.
Yes.
And everything like that. That comes from people who didn't have that themselves, and there's the sins of the father thing, where generation upon generation of people who didn't know how to treat each other is just coming down the line.
Yeah.
Right?
And you're talking specifically about the overcorrection. And I've just been seeing this a lot. And I was out Saturday and I watched one of my little cousins tell the baby, no. I'm like, oh my gosh, don't say that to her. And, being in education and working with youth at different points, the overcorrection that happens, and children need the structure.
Right.
But not allowing them to make the mistakes and be okay with that, then they develop a sense of, oh, I'm doing it wrong. Nothing I do is right because I'm always being corrected.
Right. I struggle with that with my nephew. He's all over the place.
Yeah.
Of course they say he's got ADHD, but I know it comes from anxiety and that
a
very
lot of
thing.
Underlying things, that need to be addressed.
Right. So I've been trying to sit with him and be like, okay, look, let's think through how you're feeling here. And there was one point where he was like, there's this thing he does where he'll tense everything up and he has to focus to breathe. And it gets real intense breathing. And I told him, I was like, look, how you're feeling actually makes sense. And it instantly calmed his
that
breathing
it was
down.
Okay to be like that. So now going into the empathy.
Right.
And making us stronger.
Right.
But even in, like you said, going back to the character traits, it's helping us be a better adult to the young people around us so they don't grow up with those issues being reproduced, the father's curse being reproduced.
Right.
Yeah, I like that. And it's so important to have that self-awareness that other people may be struggling with other things, no matter the labels that have been put upon, and we have to label it something.
Right. And I think the kids actually communicate that too, because when they say, oh, it was different in the olden times, and my nephew said that, and I was like, no, buddy, it wasn't really. We're all dealing with the same thing. It's your turn now, but we're gonna get through this. I understand what you're feeling. I've been there before, and this belief that they weren't actually experiencing what we experienced, and we don't understand them, I think is what they're actually saying. When they say that, it was different in the olden times.
The olden times.
Right. You see, here a 9-year-old.
Like, how old are we?
I know, a little 9-year-old, man. Don't say that. The 85 was not the olden times.
That is hilarious. Yeah, and then it makes sense because, okay, let's go back to the father's curse or issues being passed down. Oh, in my day. I had to walk a mile, 10 miles to school, and I'm exaggerating, but it is different. And I had to understand that because I also struggled with my nieces and nephews and even younger people that I deal with or have encountered in being like, I'm like, Charlie, you are old fashioned, my gosh. But accepting that they are having a different experience. And I can keep my structure. I'm going to keep my morals and my beliefs. I'm not going to waver in that.
Right.
You have to be respectful. And those values that keep us righteous, I'm not going to waver from those. Right. However, these kids are having their own experience.
For sure.
It's a whole new era. They've got the same smartphone that I've got with my full-time job, and they don't got a penny, but they've got the same devices as me and more in virtual reality. They're exposed to more things. So they are impacted very differently than how I was impacted. Right. Their media is completely different.
That's true.
The hyper everything in society and social media. So I do have to respect that, and it changes how they portray the world and how they express themselves. Is going to definitely be differently because us growing up in the 90s was just a whole different experience. Right.
They definitely do have all the technology and everything like that. I mean, there was a pretty good similarity what he was experiencing. I mean, but yes, they've got the YouTube and the phones and everything like that, and all of these different videos, and it's constant, relentless. Yeah. Especially like, all this rampant ADHD diagnoses just from what they call TikTok brain, you know, and all
everything
this.
Quick, fast.
It's like, I can't watch anything that's longer than 20 seconds, Yes. And this whole being able to watch a long, quote unquote, long form podcast or something like that is difficult for most people.
Their neurotransmitters have been trained to...
All that's...
Oh my gosh, that is such a scary thought.
Right. But I mean, I still was able to relate with him too in that one circumstance, especially because what happened was he was getting made fun of on the bus with these kids, and then they wouldn't stop. They were poking his seat and all this kind of stuff, and he got off the bus, and what was different was that he went and drop kicked the kid in the stomach.
Oh yeah! Hey, he's exercising that strength, didn't he?
He got it.
Oh man!
He did it.
Stand up for yourself.
And he did it right in front of the teacher.
Oh man!
I was like, oh buddy. He's like, and they didn't even get in trouble. They started it and all this, and he's going off.
Yeah,
and I was like,
bullying is tough.
I was like, buddy, I legitimately feel for you. Yeah. And it's that thing. Like, it's not the person who started it; it's the one who retaliated. That gets in trouble. Mm-hmm. I don't know why that's always the case, but it is. I'm like, next time, bud, just look at who's around you. If you're gonna, just make
sure nobody's looking
at least look at who's around you.
Oh, yeah, you gotta go tell somebody.
Yep.
I understand wanting to exercise that physical strength, so you're not taken advantage of. Mm-hmm. And
which is true, especially for a little boy.
Yeah, that'd be hard. People poking my seat, and that's not the first day they've done it. Mm-mm. And so then you need to go tell the bus driver, but it's hard to want to tell if you don't feel people are gonna listen.
Right.